start
everyone.
recording, guys.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh god, Levy. Scared.
Livy, you go first.
Wait, well, really? Okay.
Yeah, cause like
Um.
you're the one who starts in the role play.
Okay. Before I start, can you hear my dog in the background, or
Not really.
it's fine?
Not really.
Fine.
No.
No, you're good.
Because my dog is just going off in the background, and I'm scared if I'll hear it.
No. Nope, you're
There's
good.
nothing.
Nope.
Okay. So official.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Ziria, sorry. Before we start, Ziria, could you please like go on mute for this because I know
Oh.
your mic is really
Oh, sorry,
prone to
sorry.
being noisy and I'm sorry, yeah.
Wait, is Lullaby supposed? Is Bryn gonna listen, or what does Finn said?
What?
What do you mean? Do we ping Lullaby?
Oh my god, don't ping Lullaby. I'm gonna get killed. Guys, let's not. I'm gonna get murdered.
You're gonna get murdered.
I am. Although to be
What do
fair,
you
I
mean?
tried
Yeah,
to fix it. I tried
haven't
to fix it.
I haven't read it like entirely, so I'm really curious.
We're reading
Oh,
from
you
the
can
very
laugh.
start. We're reading from the very, very start, so it's gonna be no spoilers.
Yay!
I'd like you to
Technically.
say there is no happy ending.
Yeah, there's no
What
happy
the
ending,
fuck,
guys.
my
This is
Yuri?
Don't worry, guys. This is Act 1. This is Act
Yeah,
1.
we're only on Act 1. We have more planned.
What the fuck?
I'm also looking if anyone's willing to be a temporary Yuri. The door is open.
Oh my god!
No!
temporary toxic
No!
Yuri, because you know that you're not
Levy!
the end game. You're just not the end
No!
game. Like, anyone
Dude!
willing to be in a temporary like
Well, whoever
like
does that, I'm
how
gonna
I'll
kill you,
explain
so...
how toxic this temporary Yuri is that Lady Levy accidentally calls you Sir. Okay. So a bit of context before the official Act 1. Here's a summary of everything that has happened ever since Cerise won the Blazing Eights. And yes, Blazing Eights is now canon in this area. It is a game played at the tavern. So if you want to make your character canonically play Blazing Eights and other card games, that is possible. So that's it. Yeah. I guess I could start now. Before that, mic check. Is it fine? Is my mic fine? Ten?
Yep. Let me turn up your volume though for a minute, for like a second. I'm gonna turn you up all the way to highest so that I can hear you
Alright.
really crispy. There you go.
Okay, here's to praying my dog doesn't walk in. Anyway, so I'll be starting for the official stream, starting in 3, 2, 1. When Cerise beat Zeal at Blazing Eights, no one expected the victory to ripple this far, least of all Levy. What began as playful teasing, half congratulations, half challenge, turned into an unspoken ritual between the two. The cards were put away, but the game never truly ended. Levy, ever the charmer, began to find reasons to linger. A walk through the Lambton Gardens, a shared drink beneath a hanging sacred tree of rot, an occasional late night knock on Cerise's door with some thin excuse about needing company. Cerise, at first wary, found herself entertaining each intrusion. There was something disarming about Levy. Her laughter too genuine, her words too sharp to be empty. Over the weeks that followed, they carved out a rhythm. Levy would speak in poetry. Cerise would roll her eyes but secretly memorize every word. And when Cerise laughed, really laughed, Levy would go quiet for a moment, like she'd been struck by light. There were letters too, exchanges filled with soft jokes, subtle affection, and lines that dance on the edge of a confession. By the second month, they moved like a pair Desiria had already labeled lovers. Cerise never quite said no when Levy asked her to stay a little longer. Levy, in turn, stopped pretending that she was teasing. Her affection grew open, unguarded, And one quiet evening, watching Cerise sketch under the golden glow of a lantern, Livy realized she'd fallen in love. The realization didn't scare her, it steadied her. She decided she would love Cerise honestly, without games or restraint. Cerise noticed the shift almost immediately. The once carefree flirtations began to feel heavier, more deliberate. Levy's gaze lingered too long. Her touch, once teasing, now carried warmth that stayed even after she'd pulled away. And Cerise, who had long ago taught herself that closeness led to hurt, felt something twist inside her chest. She wanted to lean in, but every step forward reminded her of everything she had lost before. The letters began to slow. The laughter dimmed into silences she couldn't quite explain. Levy, in her earnestness, didn't see the warning signs or perhaps refused to. She only saw Cerise retreating and mistook it for hesitation rather than fear. So she pressed harder, reached further, trying to keep what she thought was slipping away. And just like that, the soft rhythm they built began to falter. What began as warmth was starting to burn, and neither of them knew yet which of them would be the first to pull away. Act 1. To burn and bloom.
The chill of the morning air nipped at her skin, sharp with the scent of iron and dust, a smell that always lingered around her now. Normal for people like her. The patrol grounds were empty, devoid of sound save for the echo of boots panning against solid earth. She enjoyed the peaceful atmosphere the grounds gave her, clad in her only tunic and only in her linen what? Sorry, again. Clad only in her tunic and linen pants, she ventured out into the patrol grounds. She moved through her patrol form with precision, cut neat and swiftly through the stagnant and dry air. Her body knew the movements faster than her mind could react. Repetition was easier to get lost in, a good distraction from other things. It was easier than forcing herself through the memories of the sweet sounds of Lady Livy's laughter, how she tried to avoid falling deeper under the spell Lady Mortimer's presence was. She couldn't afford it, didn't deserve it. No, someone like her didn't earn the right to feel that way anymore. It was a treacherous pit to swallow her, threatening to swallow her whole. Cerise exhaled, the tension so thick it could snap in the instants like a rubber band. She told herself it was nothing. The glances, the soft-spoken compliments, the ink-stained letters folded neatly underside her cot. They were all just gestures, little teasers and flirtations that had no real meaning to her. She fixed her stance, trying to gain the composure she once had, feeling her heart catch at something in the process. Something she didn't want to name. She brushed it off, muttering under her breath, "Focus, Cerise," though the words were shaken, revealing the lie she tried to hide. The soft sound of quiet footsteps, quiet enough for a pin to drop, but not quite enough for her trained ears, brushed against the ground. She straightened up, looking over to see exactly who it was, although she had a feeling she knew exactly who it was.
The soft scuff of her boots betrayed her presence long before she allowed herself to be seen. Levy hadn't meant to follow the sound of steel through air, not consciously at least. But there was something about the rhythm of Cerise's movements, that measured grace cutting the morning apart, that drew her in like gravity itself had chosen a new center. The patrol grounds were still, drenched in the pale kind of dawn that made everything look fragile, even her. And there Cerise stood, all taut focus and trembling restraint, the rise and fall of her breath sinking with the hum of her blade. Levy stopped a few paces away. Her shadow reached first. She didn't speak, not yet. Instead, she watched. The way the blade caught light, the way Cerise's eyes flicked towards her but didn't hold. how she pretended to be surprised when she knew. Levy folded her hands behind her back, posture sharp, almost regal despite the early hour. The wind teased at her hair, carrying the faint scent of rose oil she always wore, the same one that haunted Cerise's letters. Out early, she murmured finally, voice soft but carrying the same weight as a touch that lingered too long. Or perhaps you never slept at all? She let the silence after hang, stretching just enough to sting. It wasn't the first time she'd come looking, but this time it felt different. Less like longing, more like ache. The letters left unanswered, the quiet days without so much as a glance. They'd been small wounds that festered in private, and she'd grown tired of bleeding in secret. She took another slow step closer. I would have thought, Levy said softly, almost a whisper, that if you were trying to disappear from me, you'd at least try harder. It wasn't an accusation. Not yet. But it wasn't kindness either. Her eyes, dark, searching, and a little too tired for this early hour, met Cerese's and didn't look away.
She had heard the woman long before she had even uttered a word. The faint scrape of boots against stone, the steady rhythm breaking the fragile silence the demoness had built around herself. She didn't turn, not yet. The air shifted with her presence, a subtle change in the morning stillness. And somehow that was worse than if Livy had spoken right away. She could feel the ruby eyes on her, following her every little movement. Ceresa's grip on the hilt had tightened. The blade had always given her something to hold when she didn't trust her hands. Now, its weight felt like an anchor, something dragging her down, forcing her to confront what she was so desperately trying to run from. The steel met its sheath with a low hum, the sound too final, too sharp in the quiet between them. Cerise finally turned, her gaze catching on the figure standing just beyond reach, her posture elegant, voice edged with something between accusation and ache, something she always saw from the rose. Cerise almost smiled. The truth was, she hadn't. Sleep came hard when the mind wouldn't stop circling old words, half-written letters, and the wail of his laughter had taken up residence in her chest like it belonged there, like it had carved into her very being, nestled itself quietly into her aching, beating heart, making its own home in the cold embrace she was. Her eyes flickered to Livy's dull, searching, heavy, with everything neither of them had said. I could say the same, she replied quietly, tone even but her pulse betraying her calm. You never were the one that quite enjoyed the morning dawn unless requested in it. When Livy stepped closer, Cerise didn't move. Couldn't. The scent of rose oil met the crisp morning air. Familiar, deliberate, hers. It stirred something deep and unwelcome in Cerise's chest, something dangerously close to longing. Then came the whisper. Cerise exhaled slowly, jaw tightening. Those words hit harder than they should have, because they were true. She had been trying to disappear, trying and failing to escape from these emotions that clouded her judgment. She was a knight, for rat's sake. She shouldn't be getting attached to stuff, knowing it would inevitably abandon her into the dark once again. Still, Cerise spoke. Her voice was steady, cool as tempered steel. I wasn't hiding, she said. Just giving myself some to breathe some fresh air other than the one tainted with the smell of roses.
Levy's smile curved slow and brittle, like the first crack through glass. The words were meant to sting, she knew that, and still they found their mark far too easily. Ah, she breathed, low and amused in the way one sounds when amusement is the only armor left. Then I suppose I should apologize for lingering in your lungs. A pause. Her voice softened, dangerous in its tenderness. You make it sound as if roses choke you, Cerise. The morning light caught her face. Not gentle, not cruel, just real. Tired eyes, too much pride wrapped around too much want. She took a step closer again, close enough now that the air between them felt charged, thin, ready to shatter under the weight of unspoken things. You could have written, she said, the words slipping out before she could temper them. Even a single line, even a curse would have done. Her laugh followed immediately. Sharp, self-mocking, a shield against how small her voice had sounded. But of course, you were breathing, she went on, head tilting. And I was merely perfume in the air, easily replaced. Her gaze met Cerise's again, and this time there was no pretense left in it. Only the ache of someone who'd been waiting too long for an answer that never came. You always do that, Levy whispered. You just vanished, just as I start to believe you'll stay. Another step, deliberate, the scent of roses and the faint chill of metal filling the narrow space between them. Tell me, Cerise, she murmured, words trembling between bitterness and plea. Should I stop looking for you then?
Cerise didn't move when Livy stepped closer. The air between them might as well have been glass. Something fragile, yes, but she had learned long ago not to flinch at the sound of breaking things. Years in the dark had taught her not to show vulnerability to something like that. I never asked you to look, she said at last, voice calm in the way that only comes from exhaustion dressed up as control. Her gaze lingered on Livy's mouth, not her eyes, avoiding direct contact. You do that part on your own. She exhaled softly, almost a sigh, though it might have been a laugh if one were generous. Roses don't choke me. They're just temporary. They bloom, they fade. It's their nature to die beautifully. They only last a certain time before being reshaped into another. Cerise tilted her head, a faint movement, studying, measuring. If you needed a letter, you should have written one to yourself. I don't send farewells. They make people think there's something left to come back to. I was never the greatest at those anyway. At least with what I was told by others. For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. Then, I don't vanish, Livy, she said, her tone turning quieter, detached but precise, like a knife finding its mark. I just stop standing where I'm not meant to be. Her hand lifted, not quite a torch, but the shadow of one, hovering inches from Livy's throat, fingers tracing where her pulse had lived. You want to keep something alive, like the love and adoration you hold for me, Cerise murmured, her eyes flashing with a hint of regret and hurt before turning to their dull state. But I was never meant to be kept. Not someone like me, anyway. The corner of her mouth shifted. Not quite a smile, but something sharper, something more realistic than the fabricated fairy tales told to the young children of Dissyria. You call it love, she went on, but what you want is possession dressed as devotion. You'd rather have the thorn than admit the bloom was never yours. You see me as someone that can pull you out from the darkness and be the light you need, but I am none of that. For a moment, she let silence hang again, heavy, deliberate, the kind that bruised instead of comforted. Then her tone became softer, betraying the facade she had put upon herself. I don't disappear because I tire of you, little Rose. I disappear because you start to believe you know the real me. You may have seen my more vulnerable moments, but not the whole of me. Cerise let her hand fall to the side, the distance between them now defined by the things neither dared to say. Her gaze lingered, cool and unwavering, steely like the sword she gripped in her palms. Tell me, her voice barely above a whisper. Would you still want me if I stayed long enough to disappoint you?
Lady Levy took in her words, her hands clenched and unclenched behind her back. Her ruby red eyes turned stormy, a dark glint growing steadily within them as she pondered upon the implications of Ceresa's words. She thought back to the moments they've spent together, the small talks, the walks, the shared glass of wine, the palm lingering on her thigh, the stolen kisses. And now, Cerise was making her out to be some lovesick fool? A gross, she said. Cerise was painting her as a villain, someone who demands too much, needy, desperate. Sudden anger surged through Levy's veins. Something in her cracked. A small sound escaped her throat, half a laugh, half a snarl. Disappoint me, she echoed, the words sharp enough to cut through the air between them. You already did, Cerise. The moment you decided that running made you noble, the moment you started thinking that distance was mercy. Her voice rose. Not a shout, not yet, but the tremor of something dangerous, something inhumane. You talk about love like it's a cage, like I was some fool trying to chain you to a wall. But all I ever wanted, was for you to stay long enough to see I wasn't your enemy. The anger came with motion. She took a step closer, boots scraping against the ground. People in the far corners were listening now. You speak of being unkept like it's something tragic, something poetic, but it's cowardice, Cerise. It's easier to claim you're untouchable than to admit you're afraid of being touched. Her breath hitched, eyes flashing, not just anger, but grief, sharp and bright and barely contained. You think you're protecting me by leaving? You're not protecting me. You're protecting yourself. You don't vanish because you're not meant to be here. You vanish because you don't know how to be here. For a moment, the world went still. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Levy's next words came quieter, but they hurt more for it. Don't you dare stand there and call this love false or possession. Don't you dare tell me what I feel.
For a moment, Cerise simply watched her. The tremor in Livy's voice, the way her body moved like it had finally remembered how to burn. It was almost beautiful. Tragic things often were. It was only fitting for someone such as her rose to wither away, yet look so beautiful doing it. The echo of cowardice hung between them. It didn't sting, not exactly. She was used to feeling this way even as a child, but it lodged itself somewhere under her ribs, stubborn like a splinter, like a thorn you get when trying to pick a rose. No matter how beautiful it is, it will always hurt to pluck. Cerise tilted her head, slow, measured. There it is, she said quietly, the part of you that mistakes volume for truth. Her tone wasn't mocking. If anything, it was tired. Tired of this dance. Tired of the way Livy's rage always reached for her like it was proof of love. She was tired of seeing how blinded Livy was when it came to her. It was only in her nature to be this way. After all, a demoness was not the type to be trusted. She had learned that the hard way. You think I left because I was afraid, Cerise added, taking a step closer this time. The air between them shifted, no longer brittle, now taut like the strings of a violin bow, thin but holding on, humming with something like warning as they played against the melody. I never called you a fool, she murmured, eyes tracing the line of Livy's jaw. But you mistook But you make a masterpiece of proving when you dress your wanting as mere flirtation, believing I wouldn't pick up on what you were really doing. Cerise's hand lifted, barely brushing Levy's sleeve. A touch so light it might have been accidental, but her voice didn't waver. You call me a coward for leaving, she said. But at least I know when something is dying. Her gaze held Levy's, unflinching, still like the current that surrounds the lands. You just keep watering the corpse and calling it love, hoping that with enough love you can return it back to its original state, like Rod and his blessings. Livia's voice still rang in her ears, every word heavy with that furious devotion she both admired and despised. You don't know how to be here. Maybe she was right. Maybe Cerise never learned. She didn't want to win. There was nothing to win here. Only the inevitable collapse between the two people too proud to admit they were already halfway gone. How to exist in the warmth of something that expected her to stay.
Levy laughed, soft, sharp, and trembling all at once. The sound didn't carry mirth, it carried the sound of something splintering, of pride cracking beneath the weight of heartbreak. "Oh, don't you dare!" she hissed, taking another step closer, closing what little air was left between them. "Don't you dare stand there and act like this is my doing. You think I started this? You think I wanted this?" Her hand shot out, not to touch, but to emphasize, trembling with every restrained motion. "You're the one who won the game, remember? The one who invited me out, who looked at me like I was something you could stand to see every morning. You played the part so well, Cerise, so perfectly cold and untouchable that I thought you were still a demon underneath all that armor." Her voice rose, venom twisting with hurt, fangs flashing. "You fed me every word, every look, every letter that you wrote, and now you want to stand there. Tell me, did you mean any of it? Or was I just another passing distraction, something convenient for you to practice tenderness on before running back into your shadows?" The fury in her eyes wavered, melting for a fleeting moment into something raw. "You say I water corpses, but you're the one who built the grave. You buried us before I even got the chance to fight for it." Her tone shifted again, desperate in its cruelty. "And gods, how you talk about dying things as if you're above them, as if you're not one yourself. You think because you can stand there, calm, it makes you stronger. No, Cerise, it just makes you cowardly, because at least I bleed for what I love. You," she pointed at her, "you run from it and call it mercy." Levy took another half step closer, eyes burning, her breath shallow. "You started this fire, Cerise. Don't pretend you're the one who burned. You liked it when I fell for you. You wanted it. You wanted to be wanted until it scared you." A bitter smile ghosted her lips. "You don't get to walk away now and pretend it was all my fault. You don't get to play martyr."
The word hit her like an old scar reopening, the memories of childhood rushing back at her like a wave. Demon. Cerise didn't flinch, not outwardly. She had trained herself too well for that. But inside, the sound of it crawled slowly and deliberately through her chest, settling into the place where shame and memory blurred into one indistinguishable ache. She did feel her pupils widen, though, unable to hide the hurt that just flashed across her features. So we're back to that, she thought. Monster, villain, beautiful, broken thing that ruins whatever it touches. The little demon that only brings pain and misfortune to those around her. Her jaw tightened, just enough to keep the rest of her face from breaking. Livy's words were fire, but they found no fuel, no reprieve, only the dry, quiet ground Cerise had become. You think I wanted this? Cerise asked, and though her toes stayed even, there was something hollow at its center. Not emptiness, no, but a restraint trembling under too much weight. The rubber band was finally snapping, the strings of the violin bow fraying. You think I enjoyed watching you love me like I was something worth loving? She inhaled slowly, but it hurt. The air tasted like smoke. I never promised salvation, Livy, Cerise said softly. You just saw wings where there were none. Not anymore. Her gaze drifted over Livy's trembling hands, her furious eyes, the small, fractured sounds that broke at the edge of her voice. All of it too human, too alive. The kind of love Cerise had long since learned to fear, the emotion Cerise would never be able to feel. I am not above dying things, she murmured, almost to herself. I just learned to die quieter.
Levy stared at her, disbelief twisting through her expression like a storm about to break. For a second, her anger faltered, confusion bleeding into something sharp and unbearable. Then, quieter? She repeated, the word curling out of her mouth like smoke, trembling and furious. You learn to die quieter. Do you even hear yourself? You talk about dying like it's some kind of art form, like it makes you noble, like silence makes you holy. You don't learn to die quieter, Cerise. You just learn how to make everyone else suffer in silence with you. She took another step forward, close enough for her shadow to fall across Cerise's, close enough for Cerise to feel the warmth of her breath. You act like I begged for salvation, like I asked you to save me. I wanted your wings or your mercy. I wanted you. The last word tore itself from her throat, raw and trembling. Just you, Cerise, the one who made me laugh, who looked at me like the world wasn't so cruel for a moment. Her hands clenched at her sides, nails biting into her palms. But that's what you do, isn't it? You pull people in just far enough to make them believe they matter, and then you push them away before they can see you bleed. And you call that mercy. Livy's eyes burned, not just with rage now, but something softer beneath it. Something desperate, aching, still reaching even as it broke. You're not dying quieter, she whispered. You're just killing everything that ever tried to love you. For a moment, for a long moment, she didn't move. The wind carried the weight of her words, heavy and trembling. Then she laughed. Sound brittle enough to break glass. Go on then, knight. Go be noble. Walk away. Die quieter. Her voice dropped, the venom returning, low and steady. Just don't you dare come crawling back when you realize silence doesn't mourn you. I won't mourn you.
For a heartbeat, Cerise just stood there, still as a statue. Livy's words echoed in her chest long after her voice had gone quiet, the syllables cutting clean through the thin armor she'd built out of restraint and regret. She wished she had worn her uniform. At least then the arrows wouldn't pierce her hard enough to crack her shell. She could have said nothing. She'd learned how to survive in silence, after all. But Livy's anger, her trembling, furious love, overpowered that instinct. You think I wanted this? Cerese's voice cracked like frost underfoot. You think I chose to learn how to die? A bitter laugh slipped out, too soft to be cruel. There's no grace in it, Livy. No art. Just the kind of dying that forgets to stop once it starts. She looked away, because the sight of Livy, alive with fury, with heartbreak, almost holy in its own way, something she couldn't look away from no matter how hard she tried. You talk about mercy like it's a blade I keep hidden behind my back, but it's fear. Every time I reached for something, the world took something from me. And I thought, maybe if I go quiet, if I fade, the world wouldn't notice you standing next to me, won't take you away like all the others. Her hands trembled. The air between them felt like a bruise, too tender to touch, too scarred to heal. The silence spilled between them heavy, unrelenting. Cerese's next words were barely there, fragile things trembling at the edge of a confession. I thought if I hurt alone, it would keep you safe. A pause. I thought if I could die quieter, you'd never have to hear the sound.
Levy didn't flinch. Not this time. The moment Cerese's voice broke, something in her, something fragile, once golden, snapped clean. Oh, please, she breathed too calmly. Spare me the poetry, Cerese. You make tragedy sound like a performance piece. She circled low. She circled her, slow, like a predator toying with the idea of mercy. Her voice was velvet, thick, deliberate, but every syllable cut like polished glass. You thought hurting alone would keep me safe? A sharp, humorless laugh. You overestimate your importance, sweetheart. You weren't my savior. You were just another mess I mistook for meaning. You talk about fear, about losing people. Levy leaned in, her voice dropping low, sweet as venom. You never lost anything you didn't throw away at first. You don't get to hide behind your grief anymore, she said louder now, for everyone to hear. Not when it's just another excuse to make the rest of us carry your guilt. I did try to mourn you, Cerise, but then I realized, she smiled sweetly, you were never worth the funeral.
Cerise didn't move. Levi's words sliced through her like they'd been waiting for this moment. Patient, merciless, inevitable. She could almost hear them echo inside her, each one finding the hollow place she'd tried so hard to fill with silence. So this was the true face of Lady Mortimer. Spare me the poetry. It shouldn't have hurt as much as it did, but rot it did. Cerise kept her expression still, jaw locked tight, because if she let even one crack show, the rest of her would follow. She'd learned long ago that breaking in front of someone didn't make them stay. It just gave them something to remember you by. And she did not want to be remembered as someone breaking down over words, even if they ate at her like decay. Levi circled her, voice smooth and cruel in equal measure. Every step felt like judgment, every syllable a verdict. Hold on. Sorry. Cerise almost smiled. Almost, because of course she was. That was all she'd ever been to anyone. Something to fix, something to forgive, something to leave, something to abandon. Inside, everything was splintering. There was a sharpness to Levi's words that no armor could blunt. Each one dug into old scars until they bloomed again, vivid and raw. She could feel the scars on her back tingling, a silent reminder of what she had had to sacrifice. Cerise wanted to tell her that she never thought she was a savior, that she was just trying not to drown, but ended up pulling Livy under too. That one hit the hardest, because maybe it was true. Maybe she had thrown things away, not because she didn't want them, but because she didn't know how to hold them without breaking them. Because they too ended up shattering and taken away from her grasp, the tiny little hands reaching out for bigger ones that never did hold her again. Cerise felt something tighten in her chest, sharp and unrelenting, her ribs too small for it, too fragile to contain the ache that threatened to spill out. When Livy said, "You were never worth the funeral," Cerise finally looked up. She swallowed hard, forcing her voice past the ruin in her throat. "Then I suppose I should thank you," she whispered, quiet enough that it barely reached the air between them, "for saving me the time of figuring out the real you."
Levy didn't move for a moment, just breathed, slow and deliberate, as though she's steadying herself for one last strike. Then she smiled, not the fragile, trembling kind that Cerise used to draw out of her in private, but the polished, practiced kind that belonged to someone untouchable. "Oh, Cerise," she said softly, the sound almost kind. Almost. "You always did have a talent for mistaking your importance in someone else's story." Her tone carried easily across the courtyard, light, light enough to sound conversational, sharp enough to slice through armor. People were watching now. She could feel it. The soldiers by the gates, the other knights pretending not to stare. Perfect. Levy tilted her head, eyes gleaming like glass catching sunlight. "You think I lingered here for you? No, you were just familiar, convenient." She exhaled a soft laugh, the kind that made others lean closer. "The moment I found someone who didn't need saving, I realized what a mercy it is not to live in borrowed grief." She stood still before Cerise. Then she looked past her shoulder, not at anyone in particular, but with a convincing illusion that someone was waiting there, someone worth walking toward. Her lips curved in that faint, knowing way that only invited gossip. "You should meet them sometime," Levy murmured, as if sharing a secret. "They don't flinch when I get angry. They don't make dying sound like useless poetry." Pause. A cruel smile. "And they certainly don't mistake pity for love." The murmurs around them grew, barely audible, but enough. That was all she needed. The image was planted. Lady Mortimer, wronged but radiant, moving on. Cerise left behind, haunted, humiliated. Levy turned back once more, her expression sweetened with false concern. "Oh, don't worry, dear. You'll find someone who mistakes your silence for mystery again. It's what you do best." And with that, she brushed past Cerise, the liberty close enough for their shoulders to almost touch, leaving the faintest trace of her perfume behind. Everything inside the lady was ablaze. Her heart cracked with every step, but she couldn't take back her words. She couldn't turn around and beg. Not now. Not when she just left the knight who occupied her heart. Not when it pained her to walk away. She walked on, knowing no one awaited her.
Cerise didn't chase her, didn't speak, didn't blink, just stood there, still as stone beneath her boots, while Levy's perfume lingered in the air, faint, rosy, cruel. It clung to her armor like an accusation. For a heartbeat, everything went silent. The courtyard, the whispers, even the wind seemed to hesitate, unwilling to carry what was left of her. She could feel the eyes, the pity, the curiosity, the ache of 100 unspoken judgments pressing down like weight. None of it mattered. None of them had seen the way Livy once laughed into her neck. None of them had heard the softness that used to live in her voice when no one else was listening. Cerise had. And gods, she wished she hadn't. You always did have a talent of mistaking your importance on someone else's story. That one landed where no blade ever had. She could take wounds, hell, she'd built her life on enduring them. But that sentence slipped past her defenses. She found the quiet, desperate place in her that had always hoped she mattered. Her throat burned. She swallowed it down. A night doesn't weep where others can see. When Livy mentioned someone else, someone who didn't need saving, Cerise felt her stomach twist. The words didn't cut. They hollowed. The world tilted for a moment, her vision blurring at the edges. She imagined it. Livy's smile, soft for someone new, and something in her chest simply folded. Cerise stayed rooted to the spot as Livy walked past, close enough for her shoulder to brush against the cold edge of Livy's cloak. The scent that lingered was familiar, unbearable. The scent of something ending quietly. She could have said her name, could have reached out, could have begged just once. Livy's last words echoed like a command, so Cerise stayed silent and didn't move from her spot.
And that's it.
Bro, I'm killing myself. What the fuck?
Fuck.